All right. How you getting on? You well? You well? Ah, Mom. You good? How's things? Are you staying? Are you staying? What would be the opposite of winded on? Because it's very windy out there. It was a storm. It's stay dry. I have to tell you though. I have to tell you this now. I always thought. I always thought that Jack of Jack and the Beanstalk fame was a proper numpty, mate, buying them beans. And then I realized I am Jack. I am Jack's raging curiosity, because I had a fella knock at the door there. Terry went away for one night, right? And left me alone. First night she's been away since our youngest was born. And so she was away, a house was looking clean, got the kids McDonald's, doing all this stuff. I had it all planned, let them watch. I was going to let them watch a shitload of TV, because it's like a fucking holiday. My dad, hey, when you stay at hotel to fucking dad, let me tell you, there'll be McDonald's fries left on your pillow. It'll be unlimited Octonauts. It'll be unlimited Paw Patrol. When you stay at hotel, daddy. So I had it all planned. I was going to spoil my kids and look at my phone loads. I had it all planned, had it all laid out. And I got a knock on the door. Now, my policy with the door is the same as the phone, which is, if I don't know you, I will not opening my door. Curly whirly, I'm not opening my door to you or anyone. Is anyone like, I don't care. I don't care if you're bloodied and battered and you have rags for clothes and you're saying, I've been in an accident. It wasn't my fault. Right? I'm still not open. I'm sorry. Right? I have played The Last of Us. And if you knock at the door and you don't have a package in your hand, you are a raider. You're a raider to me. And I won't answer. Or you're the TV license inspector. Got to pay that soon. But anyway, so someone knocked at the door, and I was like, I'm curious. I'm even curious to see if I'm in danger. I'm even curious to see what's going on. So I opened the door, and this man said, "How's it going? I'm power washing." And a bunch of you are probably like, I know exactly what this is, right? But I'm a new homeowner, right? And he says, how are you doing? I'm power washing. I'm like, oh, amazing. I was just about thinking about renting, about texting someone if they knew about where I might get a power washer to maybe have a look at potentially in the future power washing my drive. So this is amazing. You just arrived on my door, right? And I'll power wash your drive for €100, right? And so I says, I don't know. Yeah, though. Yes, but I don't know, And he's like, I'll power wash. And just tell me, do you need that done with your gutters? Right? And I was like, yes, actually. I was just about thinking about potentially breaking my neck by putting a ladder up there and not knowing how to put it up properly. I have this death trap for a ladder that I use. That is basically like, it's collapsible. I got it from Amazon. God bless the postman. Because it weighs about 100 kilograms, right? God bless you. Right? And I got this ladder from Amazon, and I use it to go up to the attic sometimes. And it's collapsible. It's a telescopic ladder, right? But you kind of extend it, and they all clicks into place, right? But then some of them don't click properly, and then they just full on fall, and it's a really heavy ladder. There have been times when I've had my fingers in between the rungs, and they've just gone down, and I've narrowly pulled my hand out. It is basically like 16 stacked guillotines, all on top of each other. So I was like, I don't need my ladder. I didn't say this, to him. Is anyone doing your gutters? I don't like my ladder. What? I mean, yes, I was just thinking about getting my gutters maybe looked at potentially ever sometime, right? And he goes, well, do you have the front gutter? Do you have gutters in the back? And I was like, yeah, I do. And then before I know it, I'm bringing this strange man down my side passage. Ooh, pardon. No, I don't have an arse on the side of my ribs. So the side passage gag doesn't work, right? So I bring him around the side passage. Ooh, pardon. And I show him the back, and he's like, yeah, I can do that for you. And actually, look, it's pretty dirty here, this back garden and the side passage. How about I power wash that for you? And I'm like, okay. How much are we looking at now? And it's like, well, I suppose it's 50 for the gutters, 50 for the back passage. and 50 for the side passage and 50 for the back. So it'd be about 250 quid. And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, oh, no, I will. And then he's walking off. I will. And then I'm like, no, I don't know. And I was like, 200. And he's like, no, 250. And he disappears. Right? And then I'm like, all right. And then I'm getting ready to leave. And I think, all right, I'm just going to leave the side passage open in case he comes back, because he's probably. I think I've done a deal here. I think I've made a bad deal here. I think I've just scored a, But my whole thought here is, no, I'm just going to picture my wife's face when she comes back, and I tell her, while I had the two kids, I power washed the whole front drive, the side passage, and the back, and I cleaned out the gutters while I had the kids. Now, I know it would take her a millisecond to be like, that's impossible. What did you have them strapped to you? Like, you're a tribeswoman, or anyone really who does that. I don't know if that's whatever, moving very quickly on from that, right? I was going to lie and see how long it would last, right? See if she'd believe it. If she believed it, great. If she believed me, right? If she believed me that I did it, then great. If she didn't believe me, right, then I would have been like, I don't know, like I just got something to do. I thought it might look nice, We're getting ready, I took down all the Halloween decorations. We're getting ready for Christmas, and I'm like, this would be the start. Have a nice clear path, clear drive, and all this stuff. There was leaves everywhere. More leaves now, but of course that was going to happen. So I go off for the day, and I come back, and they've power washed the gaff, right? They've powered these. Now it's 3 men, right? And no baby. Maybe the baby was in the van. Don't know. But 3 men anyway, and a little lady potentially, or whatever. Move on. It's not a good joke, right? So I come back and they've power washed, right? And also the windows. He said he was going to clean the windows as well. And I'm like, wow, this is a full fucking, this is a full service of my house, at least the outside, right? And doors were locked. It's not going to get in or anything like that. Worse they get in the back garden. And so then I'm looking at it. I'm like, front looks good. Okay, good. That looks great. All right. And I have the kids with me. And then I look down the side passage and, it looks really clear. Looks great. Come into the back garden, right? The back garden is a fucking... They fucked everything that was on the side passage, including rubbish, just on the grass, right? And the bins. And the bins are spilt over onto the garden, right? And they've power washed the back, right? But I didn't realize that, and I've had loads of storms, Storm Ciarán, Storm Debbie, to name a few, come through my house, and the back garden has not been waterlogged, but there's water everywhere, and it doesn't look like it's draining, right? And also all the paint is gone from the white walls, right? In my back garden, very light coat of paint, and it's gone. They must have just for a laugh thought I might power wash the wall as well. For a laugh, right? Or maybe some of the dirt went on. I don't know, right? And I look at it, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, right, so that was, 250. And I'm like, he's trying to leave very quickly. And I'm like, and I don't know how else to bargain here, right? I think looking back now, my bargaining chip was kind of over, right? Because he'd finished the job and I wasn't there for it, right? And I was like, I'm not happy with this. And he goes, what? And I was like, I'm not very happy with this. Everything's covered in muck from the wash. The walls are covered in muck. My bins are covered in muck. The garden's a tip. You didn't move out and back. It looks really much worse. And I even tell him, like, I was telling this to another man, right? As if he gives a fuck. I was picturing my wife's face coming back happy, I said. I was picturing my wife's face coming back happy. And so I said, I want a discount or something. Like, I'm not happy with this. And he said, go away with that with a discount, he says. You're not getting a discount. That's what we agreed. And I'm like, I'm not giving you full price for that. And then, right, he pulls this move. It was like something out of the handbook of a 15-year-old Tony Cantwell. I was very impressed by it. He goes, all right, forget it. Walks off. I'm like, what? What do you mean, forget it? And he said, forget it. Starts walking off, getting into the van, about to drive off. And he's trying to pull off. And then, right, he says, I said, well, obviously, you're not going to do it for free here. Let me just give you this, and I'm still trying to push this for whatever reason, push this discount idea. And then he goes, no, do you know what? It's fine. We'll sort something else out. And I was like, okay. I don't know. I tell you, in terms of broad, loose threats, that's up there. We'll just sort something else out. At first I thought, he's just being like a petulant teenager here. He's just been like, forget it then. Forget it, you're not my friend anymore. But then I'm like, what could that mean? And either way, the least it could be is him showing up the next day just looking for the money again. And that was enough for me to be like, that's okay. Here you are. And here's your tip. And here's your tip. No, I didn't give him a tip, but I paid him in full. Because I was like, I don't really want to have another one of these conversations drag into tomorrow. And what you mean? And tell you what, don't want to find out. And it was also more kind of like, let's take out my little what is it, a cat and nine tails whip and self-flatulate myself. Do you know what I mean? Because it's my fault that this thing happened. It's my fault that I answered the door to a stranger, got involved in a deal without supervising or specifying, and more fool me. Next time I get something done, I will have maybe a checklist of everything I expect, have the budget signed off, have me be there, rather than letting some strangers into my house to, So I was like, okay, they're gone now. That's a lesson now that me. But I was really like, what do you fucking mean by that? What do you fucking mean by that? Had McDonald's there. I had 20 nuggets between me and my son, every single one of them, before I realized. I only realized that I'd been drifting off, staring off into space, scoffing my mouth with chicken McNuggets when my son was like, can I have a nugget? And I was like, oh, yeah. So I got scammed, potentially. I got scammed, or I just hired people who, they did a good job apart from the back. And I don't know if they did the gutters. I haven't gone up to check. And I don't know, they didn't really clean the windows, but they were wet when I came home, So, more fool me, but also, just for you out there. If, as soon as I looked it up, I was like, I Googled, like, went on Irish Reddit, and I was like, power wash scammers? It's like 20,000. Yeah, they arrived and they did the whole spiel about how they're already power washing other houses in the, in the estate. And I'm like, Street smarts Tony Cantwell getting scammed at my home, where my wife sleeps and my children come to play with their toys, So, a word of warning to anyone: just power washers are out there, and it's a really fun job if you do it yourself, and just give it a shot. Maybe don't. And then, what happened as well? The day before, right? I was meeting my dad for lunch in town, and I was on what's it called? It was outside Tower Records. What's that called? It's outside Tower Records. I was having a little browse at some vinyl and some 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays. I'm a bit of a physical media nut. It'd be terrifying if you were, right? So I'm having a look, and I locked up my bike. My little, I have this little orange foldable bike, and I had it tied up to this lamppost. And then met my dad for lunch, and I came back to the bike, and there, right across from the Pret, right? And I was like, oh, it's gone. Did I park it somewhere else? It looks like it's gone. And then I went to where it was supposed to be parked, and there was a little, those like things that you wrap around a coffee cup to keep it, from burning your hand. One of those was on the lock that looked like it hadn't even been broken. I reckon they just unfolded it in a way and then but anyway, the bike was gone. My bike had been stolen, right? And there was a sign on it saying, I saw 2 teens steal your bike at 1:20 p.m. Here's my number. I'm like, okay, thank you. For nothing. Hi, bystander here. I saw it all. If you want to play by play, give me, what am I going to do? Call and be like, hey, what's the story? Yeah, I saw 2 teens steal your orange bike at 1:20 p.m. Do you want me to say it again? No, that's okay. Were they likely wearing hoods? So the bike, I had my bike stolen, and then I was scammed, maybe intimidated, by some door-to-door power washers. So the week was going great. Great week now for all street smarts. Tony Cantwell now. The thing is, I kind of thought, I know I'm going to die, right? I know I'm going to die. But I don't really have bad things happen to me. I don't really have anything bad happen to me, really. I'm an absolute... you can call me a beer mat, because I'm an absolute coaster, right? I coast through life. The fact that you're listening to me right now, and I've been sacked from like 5 or 6 different jobs. The fact that I got my fucking 10th choice in the CAO, right? I've coasted. No, I mean, I do work hard at this kind of thing. But you know what I mean? I've coasted. And everything's going to... But then I realized, like, I had nothing for anyone to ever take, you know, or steal. I had nothing. And so nothing bad ever happened to me. You know, I never had a good phone, you know. I only started making videos in my late 20s because my mom just got me and my brother iPads just to do a wild and crazy Christmas. She's like, I got you iPads. They both iPads. Like, what? Can't afford this. I was like, yeah, I know. But I did anyway. Okay, thank you. That's great. I really appreciate that. But we didn't have like camera phones or anything good. Anything we ever got was like hand-me-downs or whatever like that, you know? So, but point being is that I don't know if it's that I've been lucky or just I had nothing for anyone to ever take, you know? I never had a bike, you know? Never bought like a new bike. So I'm now a right-wing gun nut. I've had some stand your ground doormats made, and I think we should defund the arts and put it all into defence. I think we should put everything into the Gardaí, you know. But you know, going forward, I'll probably put an AirTag in the next bike that I get, and I'll lock it properly, I suppose. And I'm going to continue now. There was a bit of lapse there in me opening the door, and that's never happening again. There will be secret knocks, and even if it's just a milkman knocking at the door, I'm gonna get one of those like voice changer doorbells. Get one of those Ring doorbells, you know, and communicate through that. You know, leave the milk, put the milk, put the milk in the basket, put the milk in the basket. No, but you owe me for the milk. Do you have Revolution? Do you have Revolution? It puts the milk in the basket, or else it doesn't get the Revolution. Is my new greeting at the door. Okay? So that's what's happening now. A friend of mine, remember, he told me that when his brother had a kid, his brother said, he said, now, do you know what? Now that I have a kid, I'm a dad, I'm a man, and no one's ever going to make me feel like a kid again. All right? No one's ever going to talk to me like I'm a kid. I'm never just going to go along with something because that's what kids do. Do you know what I mean? I'm a fucking man now. That's what happened. It was almost like this switch happened. Or at least that's what you know, I might be saying a lot of shit and I don't follow through with it. Do you know what I mean? But maybe I tried to pull that shit. That was a kind of, I'm not very satisfied with this at the back. Sorry, there's a big pool of water everywhere and everything's a big shithole here. I'm not very satisfied. Can I have a discount, please? I'm much better over the phone. You know, I should have been like, fuck. Right, look, listen to me, can you get in your van and I'm going to stay in my house and I'm just going to call you, right? And look, I'm going to be a little bit more assertive on the phone, right? But if you can just wait and I'll call you on the phone, we'll do it all that way. Don't leave the van though. And, you know, I'll just be a bit more assertive over the phone, you know. Look, maybe you're wiser, right? To all this shit, right? I thought I was streets. I remember someone said like my mom maybe said one time, well, you know, Tony's got the street smarts and Andy, you know, he's got the book smarts, you know, neither of which are true. Because I remember when I was met Terry's family, you know, I was surprised with them. You know, I remember likening them to Terry like they're Klingons, right? And not in the way that they're barbaric and love blood or war or anything like that, but like they show their love by being kind of loud and opinionated with each other, you know, around the dinner table. You know, I remember saying like your parent, you know, your family's like a bunch of Klingons, you know, because I remember reading in the Klingon dictionary, you know, I used to have a Klingon dictionary. In between the overflowing pussy that I would be getting, sometimes between the orgies, I would just crack open the Klingon dictionary just for a little fucking break, you know, from all the riding, and I would read, and the preface of it said, you know, Klingons show their affection with volume, you know, and they'd say Gartak, you know, meaning I love you or whatever, you know. And it's just a different type of love language that they have. And I remember saying to Terry, like, I was never opinionated before I met you, you know. And I remember it took some getting used to. She would argue with things, and it would all not like arguments, but like she had no issues with like disagreeing and us talking back and forth about something we don't like. We still do it now, you know. And one time, our first ever argument that we both broke down in tears over started. We had a bottle of wine each as well, but like we were arguing about who the best Chris is. I said Chris Evans is better than Chris Pine, right? I kind of don't know if that's true anymore, and I don't even know if I knew it was true then, you know. And after back and forth and her clearly winning the argument, I went for emotions, you know, and I was all like, I started arguing about the way she was arguing, you know, and then you know, and then when you're off piste like that, you know, then it just gets a bit dodgy. And we ended up just, you know, storming out of the two rooms that we had, you know, storming in and out of the two rooms that we shared. And, but I told her I was never argumentative before I met you, you know. And then Terry brought that up, and my mom fucking laughed her ass off. And she's like, we used to think Tony should be a lawyer, right? Because he would argue constantly about everything. He said Tony used to ruin dinners by arguing about children's rights, right? I used to have this bit. It wasn't a bit because I really meant it. It wasn't meant to be funny. But my dad would be like, tell her a bit about children's rights there. And I'm like, okay, why does a children's menu always have to be nuggets and chips? Have they no fucking respect, you know? Have they no respect that I might want the soup du jour, that I might want prawns, you know? It's an embarrassment. And plus, I would argue at the table, ruining everyone's dinner. If they're going to give the children's menu, it's like, can you not tell how fidgety we are? Can you not tell that if you're going to give a children's menu, can that not come first? I'm a child with a small belly, and I would argue these things. And my dad really wanted me to go to law school about this, or you study law. Don't know if we have law schools here or whatever, but to study law. And we were talking about this recently with my mum, and she was saying, "Oh, Terry, the annoying thing was with Tony is that when we argued with him, he was always right." And Terry's like, "What you mean?" And I was expecting, like, oh my God, what amazing points was I making at 7, right? And he's like, we'd go to a shop and he'd want Maltesers or whatever, and he'd ask for them. And, you know, I'd be like, no, I'm not getting them for you because you won't eat your dinner. And then he would drop this bomb, and I'd be like, I can't argue with that. And we're like, what's the bomb? He would say, well, how do you know I won't eat my dinner? And I was like, what? And she's like, it stumped me. I was like, I don't know if that's me being amazing at arguments or you being probably the worst person in the world, with the greatest respect, I love you, ma'am, at arguments, you know? Oh, shit, well, maybe I don't know if he might actually use dinner. Fuck, you know? But that's, so my mom's not really into arguments or anything like that, you know? So, yeah, I don't know how I got onto that, talking about being argumentative. But it was funny to chat to my mum about that. What else is going on? I'm very excitedly going to be moving this podcast over to the Head Stuff Podcast Network. I don't know if it'll be next week or if it'll be the week after. And I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's been listening to the Young Hot Guys, the other podcast that goes out on Thursdays. Me and Shane Daniel Byrne and Killian Sunderman were the Young Hot Guys. There's a video YouTube channel you can watch there. And we got to the top of the charts. So thank you very much for that. And I'm going to be moving my podcast over there. It just makes sense. They've been amazing with everything. And I've had a great long working relationship with Head Stuff, with Alan in there. He gave me my first ever podcasting spot with Sexy Beasts with Mark Jago. Took us in when we were, you know, little pink-arsed, pure little noobs. And, you know, put some manners on us. And he's been great. So I'm going to be doing that either next week or the week after. We do the odd one from the shed. But I, you know, got big plans for the new year, and I spend most of my time editing the podcast or thinking about the podcast, and I think the podcast would be much better and consistent if those kind of editing hands and release schedules and all that kind of stuff was in the hands of someone else, you know, and I could just focus on the notes, what I want to say, and then saying it, you know. So the stuff that you still think that I do, I'll still be doing, but hopefully on a more consistent basis. So it's a win-win for everyone. So hopefully that'll be next week or the week after. What else is going to talk about? Oh, saw a flick over the weekend. Did you watch The Killer? Have you seen The Killer? Yeah. David Fincher's The Killer. What a flick. I was blown away by this flick. I'm looking forward to it because I love David Fincher. Didn't see Mank because it didn't feature any serial killers or murder from what I know, even though I love Gary Oldman. But I might get into some killer spoilers because I just thought there's so many. Like, David Fincher I love, and I love the fact that he is an auteur director, obviously. He's got his own vision, his own style. He's the Kubrick of our generation in that, he's one of the great American directors. He's meticulous. People know what they're getting into with him, when they do a shot. People don't notice about David Fincher with his movies is that, like, to the level of he might do 30 takes of a scene of two people talking to each other, and then he might take 17 for Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, but take 30 for Ben Affleck and meld them together, actually superimpose both takes in the same shot, But all the shots are really meticulous. They're well composited. He always gets at least for him, the best performance. Incredible director. I've always loved David Fincher. A lot of people talking about David Fincher now, and I'm listening to a lot of David Fincher media. It's hard to know what is my own thoughts and what are kind of regurgitated thoughts from others. But an incredible flick with a Smiths soundtrack. It's just Venn diagram after Venn diagram. You got Fassbender, the Smiths, Hitman thriller. I mean, hook it to my fucking veins. 5 stars. And I might give you a little play-by-play going through the flick because it's fresh in my mind and it's probably the best flick that I've seen all year. And what I love about David Fincher is just, it's a quality action movie. It's a quality thriller while also just being absolutely and utterly gorgeous to look at with messages, with themes. I listened to on the Big Picture podcast, they were pointing out the kind of hypocrisy with David Fincher that is just accepted, which is David Fincher's known for just doing a shitload of commercials, music videos, George Michael's Freedom 90 video, which is iconic, while also in his movies being incredibly critical of capitalism, obviously having done The Social Network, and, with this film, there are like laugh out loud moments when he just mentions some of the biggest brands in the world, like Amazon or Starbucks or WeWork, and the fact that David Fincher and Fight Club, there's a scene where they like smash up like a Volkswagen Beetle, like that new one that was released around the same time. I remember listening to the director's commentary with David Fincher, Edward Norton, and Brad Pitt, and they're like saying about how, but back in the 60s, it was kind of like a counterculture symbol, of free love and the hippie movement, and now it's this kind of like polished down yuppie car, and I just love that he can kind of just does that, he just will. How he will take all the money and then insult it as well, and just he said he used to be part of this kind of directors collective who made music videos, and he was like, we're just a jukebox. You put the money in and you get the song out, and that was just his whole mentality. But he also, just to be able to do that, to make movies that are thrillers or action movies or biopics, while also having just his incredible, meticulous style. And you just know, in the same way, it's a Wes Anderson movie, it's a David Fincher movie, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, one of the great directors. And it's a fucking flick. It's a perfect Netflix Friday night flick. It's perfect. So Fassbender's in it, right? Fassbender plays this assassin. And we meet him while he's kind of like in this rundown WeWork office, which is a gag in it. It's his empty WeWork office. He's sitting there. He is meticulous. Whenever he's kind of talking, and this is what's amazing about it, it's kind of like, normally in movies, when you see someone doing a voiceover, you're like, okay, fuck, they obviously messed this up, that they need reshoots, or something wasn't clear. There's exposition that's missing that the narrator now has to get across. But there's amazing moments where, like, he's talking about what he does, who he is, how he's, batting 1,000, that he's never missed a target, his process, yoga, his protein intake, how he has to get his heart rate to below, 60 for him to follow through, how he lacks empathy, is how empathy, is a distraction, and it must be suppressed and all this kind of stuff. But there's an amazing thing that happens while he's doing the voiceover where like he kind of forgets the name of someone and his Fassbender's eyes do a kind of little dart. And you're like, oh my God, like this is actually just happening in his head. Because whenever I see a voiceover, I'm thinking, all right, what's the, if there's a voiceover and I don't get a reason for the voiceover at the end, even though it's a little bit, I don't mind it. I don't mind voiceovers in movies. Some people hate them. But normally you'd expect at the end of the movie, okay, why was there a voiceover? Was the killer here explaining his story to the police? Is that what's happening? Is that why we have a voiceover now? You know? Is there a diary at the end? That maybe might be a bit of a cop-out at the end. But why is the voiceover here? And then you realize, oh, he's just talking to himself. And he's sitting there. He's ready to fire. He's setting up his rifle multiple nights on the trot, aiming at this hotel in Paris. And and spoilers. I'm spoiling the movie. All right. So you can come back if you want to watch it. I recommend you do watch it. You can come back after you watch it. You know, you've got enough from me today. if you want to click off. But he's and he's listening to the Smiths, right? And there's an amazing shot where he has his target lined up in the sights, and you just staring through the scope. And whenever you're staring through the scope, he's listening to How Soon Is Now, the Smiths song. Great song. You might recognize one of the sexiest Smiths songs there is. It's a theme song from The Craft, the Craft TV show. And he's aiming the shot, and we don't know anything about the person he's killing. His whole thing is like, I stay out of the business, the people who pay me can't afford to tell me the backstory as to why, I have to kill the person who I kill. But like David Fincher's kind of like making you, you're getting in on it. Like he's about to kill someone and you want him to, your bloodlust is there. You want him to kill. And we're watching, we're like, we don't know anything about this person he's going to kill. He's there and he's got maybe his girlfriend or partner or a stripper or whatever dancing in front of him. This rich man in this Parisian apartment who he's about to kill. And like there's so many times where he could take the shot, and then the target sits on a couch and there's a perfect big square window and he can take the shot, and we're like, oh yeah, like fucking take the shot now. And as soon as that happens for you, the viewer, as soon as you feel like, oh yeah, now's the time to take the shot, like you want him to take the shot, he takes the shot and he misses and he kills the woman, and then he sprints out of there just as fast, and he's like, snapping SIM cards and putting gloves in bags and throwing them in the trash compactor, and he's going to some tire shop to like shave and scrub down his DNA and all this stuff. But what's amazing is like there's so many moments you're like, oh yeah, take the shot now, or now in the song will be a good place to take the shot. And then every time it's about to get into the good part of the song, it cuts back to Fassbender and you can only hear it in a kind of the tinny sound of his headphones, because he's listening to it on like an iPod Nano. And that's amazing because it's like, oh fuck, I am a dirty little dirty little thing, because I want him to take the shot at the good part of the song. That was a point that Chris Ryan on the Big Picture pod pointed out. But anyway, he gets out of there, and then he's like boarding a flight. He's going home to the Dominican Republic. Leaves it a day because he thinks someone on the plane is watching him. Does this amazing thing where he goes into a hotel room, balances a pint glass on the doorknob, and puts the kind of steel tray that you get from room service underneath, so it'll make a huge sound if anyone comes in, And Terry was like, I'm definitely doing it next time we stay somewhere. And I laughed, and she's like, I'm not even messing. Terry's weird like that, Terry has like a go bag, if anything were to kick off. She's like fucking Jason Bourne. We stayed in a mobile home one time and the power went, and I was in the shower, and it was just because the shower was on, it tripped a fuse, right? When I came out, Terry had hid a knife in every single room, right? We kept finding, and I don't even know how she did this, it must have been 15 seconds, but there was a knife in every single room. And then I went out there was an outside fuse box, and Terry gave me a big butcher's knife. And I'm like, why are you giving me this? And she's like, in case you see someone. I'm like, if I see someone, I'm going to be like, hey, do you also not have any power? My first choice is not murder another human being outside. And she's like, well, just in case, So anyway, then he goes back to the Dominican Republic, and you see, and there's great details. Like he gets off the plane, he's got this Jeep there. The Jeep has about 3 weeks of dirt on it because everything about this guy has been meticulous. And then you see the Jeep, and you're like, all you need to know is just from the Jeep how long he potentially has been scoping out this mission, how long he's potentially been in Paris for, because obviously he had his car parked there. Everything about him is clean, meticulous, and there's just enough dirt that it looks like he's been there for like about 3 weeks. Just great detail. Drives home, he's driving all day back to this mansion in the middle of the jungle, and then he stops outside to see some footprints and some cigarette butts, and he's like, oh shit, someone's been in here. Gets out of the Jeep, runs in, sees there's been signs of a struggle, there's blood, and you realize, oh, there was someone else staying here. Goes to a hospital and sees his girlfriend there. And then what I love about this is he sees his girlfriend. She wakes up from, Girlfriend in a Coma, there's a song as well that they use, loads of Smiths in this. And her brother's there, and she's like, oh, she didn't tell them anything, And this is his potentially future brother-in-law, but the first thing is like, oh, I didn't tell them anything, And I'm like, is this even his family? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's the protagonist, and we know he's a bad person because he's an assassin, but we've loved people like this before. We still are rooting for this guy, but we even realize now, just in his communication with other members of his, as far as we know, only family that he has, they're not afraid of him, but they know he means no bullshit. She wakes up, the first thing she says is, I didn't tell them anything, And you're like, oh, fuck, I don't, should we even like this guy? And then she tells him that there was like a green taxi from the airport picked up the assassins who tried to kill his girlfriend and tried to kill him, but he wasn't there. And then he hunts the taxi man down, breaks into the taxi office, again goes in, looks through all the files. He's perfectly meticulous, He goes in there with a balaclava, and when you kind of realize, oh, he's covering his face here. That means he probably doesn't have to tie up any loose ends. This could just be a robbery. He makes it look like a robbery, throws some cash around, leaves, but all he's looking for is the number and details of the taxi guy. Gets a taxi with the guy, and then he's in the back, brings the taxi guy out to the scrapyard, interrogates him, but then he takes off his glasses, and you're like, oh, fuck, we just saw him leave a crime scene with a balaclava on. There is no way this taxi guy is going to be left alive. He just took his sunglasses off. Your man's seen his face like 5 times. But you're kind of like, oh, well, I know what happens in a movie like this. We're following a hitman. Now he has to change of heart. And now, because he leaves this guy, that guy's going to run off and tell everyone else, no, pow, pow. Blows his head off. Blows his head off. It's awful. It's harrowing. This innocent guy, this innocent taxi guy dead. But then he realizes that it was 2 hitmen who obviously knew where his house was. They knew exactly where it was going to be. And the only person that would have those details is his boss, the guy who books all the jobs for him. This guy Hodges, right? So he heads to Hodges' office in New Orleans, right? And he, beforehand as well, he pulls up. He has everything planned. You're just watching him the whole time. Then he's going to Home Depot, gets these 2 guys to bring out, a wheelie bin, loads of different tools, a nail gun, pays in cash. Doesn't even go into the shop, so no one's going to know it was him. Puts it all in the back, drives all the way to New Orleans, dresses like this recycle worker. He also draws this recycling logo, again meticulously. Like, the art is you realize there's more to this guy than just this bloodlust. He just is. It's his precision. It's his precision, and he even says it in the voiceover that Hodges was maybe like a law professor or something like that who had noticed in him that he is a bit of a sociopath and meticulous and would make a perfect assassin. He goes in. There's a great scene where he's counting how long the doors take 7 seconds to open. He gets in, lets the other FedEx driver let him in. He's then there standing with the bin in the hall, about to go into the office of his boss. Sees the secretary in there. He counts it to 7 seconds. Okay, 7 seconds it takes to open the door. As the FedEx guy comes out, he leaves the door open, and he's counting down the time. At about 7 seconds, that guy gets in the elevator, and he just catches the door just in time, goes in there. The secretary immediately knows what it's all about. He has her, cable tie his boss to his chair and her to the sink in the bathroom. And Hodges is like, what are you doing? Why did you go home? Why would you ever go home? You got more money than anyone. That's the exit plan is you disappear. I give them your house. They go there. And then that's the end of it. I tried my best and you're still alive. But he's like, no. And he takes out a nail gun, puts fucking 3 nails in his lungs. Your man starts bleeding out. And then again, a great funny bit where Fassbender's like, okay, should be about 6 to 7 minutes. He should bleed out. Hopefully I can get that. He dies instantly. There's so many of these moments where he's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then he makes a mistake. Is he as good? He's in, I've seen him quoted as being called the unreliable narrator. And that's what I love about it. He's just wrong. But anyway, Dolores, his receptionist, then offers to give the identities of the actual of the people who did try and kill him and tried to kill his girlfriend, and she says this line where she's like, I know how you work. Please don't make me disappear. I know you're gonna take his body out of here. And she's right. That Hodges' body goes in the bin, but she's like, my kids need life insurance, please. So he goes back to her house. He gets all the details from like a Rolodex. There's a really cool system where it's like the numbers, whatever the last number is, and whatever that letter is the next thing in the Rolodex. Real great detail. And then he does, right? And then his next kill kills her by snapping her neck and pushing her down the stairs. And this is the most empathetic thing this man does in the whole movie, is just kill this woman at the top of the stairs and make it look like an accident. Like that's as empathetic as he gets. I've never seen, like, how does that happen in a movie where you're like, she literally snaps her neck as she falls down the stairs. First you think he's going to let her away, but then he snaps her neck, and then you're just like, oh, what a good guy, you know? Like, it's just playing with your emotions the whole time. Then he drives to Florida, and he finds the first assassin, this brute, right? And he's kind of stalking him for a while. This guy who's huge. He goes to a strip club. He realizes he has a dog. He's like, okay, I need to go get some sleeping pills, put it in some beef, picks up all these bits, you know, and he even says, you know, okay, a dog, what's that, about 150 pounds? That dog should be asleep about 6-7 hours. Not true. Dog wakes up pretty much at the end. But an amazing fight scene where he goes into his house again, gets caught on the hop by this huge assassin. One of the best fight scenes I've seen in years. Like, the darkest fight scene, like pretty much in the dark, and you can see everything. You've got a great sense of what's at stake. You got a great sense of where people are. You know the layout of this guy's house already, and you know the rooms that he could potentially run into or run out of. Like, you know all that, and it's such a short span of time, but like, it's so economic in all the details that you know all this shit. And the guy's kicking the fucking shit out of him. Another great gag where he hides behind the counter, and he puts his hand in the drawer hoping to pull out a knife, pulls out a cheese grater. He's like, oh fuck, but he's able to take out the brute and run out just before the dog comes. But now he's had the shit kicked out of him. And his whole thing was like, he has to be inconspicuous. His whole attire, he says, he dresses as a German tourist because no one wants to talk to a German tourist. So he has like a bucket hat, you know, and khakis and all that kind of stuff. And he pretty much does stay invisible. What's also great, just stylistically, in every shot where he's with someone else, you actually can't see his face. And just purely from the shadows, just it's lit in such a perfect way that you actually cannot make out who it is, you know. But now he's battered and bruised, and he's still doing his international travel with all of his passports. But now people are kind of looking for a little bit longer, you know. He's already shown empathy, which he said he would never do. He's now no longer inconspicuous in the same way that he was, because very noticeable, a guy walking around with bruises. Then he heads to a small town in kind of state of New York, and the only thing he knows about the other serial killer, is that she was called what was she called? A Q-tip, and it's Tilda Swinton. And Terry's like, oh my god, if he just shoots her or something like that, you better get. I'm like, this is fucking Tilda Swinton. Like, he's gonna sit down with her. You know, they're both gonna chew the fucking scenery. It's gonna be amazing, and that's exactly what happens. She's going in. She knows exactly what happens. He sits down at her table, you know, and he's making these kind of mistakes. He's now sitting down right in front of her, you know. She orders like a flight of whiskeys. She's living a great life, you know. You know, she does an amazing job in the film of kind of just explaining who she is, and by proxy maybe the kind of personality that he might be, because he's not really letting us know anything about him other than the things that he's kind of regimented with, and you know, how monastic he is and all that kind of stuff. We don't really get anything at him, but she's like, you know, I have loads of money, but why did I still do it? Why didn't I stop even when I had enough money? You know, after everything, I still never thought this day would come, you know. And you're kind of like, oh shit, that day is going to come from him. And then she's drinking and she's acting a little bit drunk, and then they walk out and she kind of slips, and she's like, oh, could you lend me a hand? And immediately just shoots her, and then reveals she has a fucking knife in her hand. Amazing. You know, and you think, oh, this is the bit where he's the empathy, he's going to do it, and she's going to fucking stab him. You know, he's slipping, but he doesn't slip. You know, she slips and he shoots her. And then he goes to Chicago to find the person who actually called the hit. You know, the person he was meant to do the hit on behalf, who then put a hit out on him, you know. And it's some like billionaire venture capitalist, and he's watching his routine, and he's like buying tools from Amazon, like just like a fob copier, you know, just by ordering from Amazon. Like this is what's great. Like, WeWork is assisting in the murder of someone, you know. Amazon is assisting in the murder of someone. You know, McDonald's is the fuel of a killer, you know. All the, like, where this money is coming from and who the clientele are does not matter to these huge businesses, you know. And I just love that that David Fincher just has fun with that. Well, probably might do an ad for Amazon for all you know, but has a bit of fun with that. Clones his home key card while he's in the gym, and all he has to do is just book a free trial in a gym to then get access to this guy's locker, and then confronts him in his apartment at gunpoint. And your man just says, "Oh, look, I've never done this before. All they said is when you botch a hit, they take out the hitman. That's all I did, you know." And then he spares him. He doesn't kill him, you know, but says he'd kill him in a very gruesome way if he ever tried to put a hit on him, you know. And but spares him because he also knows that's a level of fucking excess baggage, you know, that he's you know, a billionaire, you know. If a billionaire gets killed, a lot of people are going to pay attention. That's too much, but just he's like, "Hey, I'm done. I've spared you. Let that be the fucking end of it," you know. And then he goes home. And he gets away with it. And you like him. He's despicable. He's not redeemable. But you're fucking in on the whole thing. And it's a fucking flick. And I just love that it's just a stripped-down, awesome hitman flick. You know? Quality hitman thriller. I love John Wick, and I love all that. And the action's great. But, you know, I start to yawn a little bit when it's all, you know, by order of the Artrice Mécanique d'Annalise Cardinal. I'm like, all right, you're all right, mate. Do I want to see the show with Mel Gibson? No, thank you. You're all right. You're all right. And this is just... I also just love the scenes where he, like, opens up his, like, storage thing and he's just got loads of Ziploc bags with cash and guns and ID. And I'm like, give me all. Give me it all. I love that. You know, I love when someone digs up their armory, you know. But I liked it. I recommend it. 5 stars. Anyway, look, thanks very much for listening to this pod. I like it. I fancy it. If you like this pod and would like to listen to more of these kind of podcasts, over on the Patreon every single Friday, I have the bonus Cantwell Shitshow, where for the price of a pint of Island's Edge a month, you can listen to 4 extra podcasts. I like doing those, and some people say they're far more relaxed, maybe too relaxed sometimes, but I do take advantage of being behind the paywall, and maybe even if you could imagine, even far more personal over there, literally telling you here how much of a numpty I was getting scammed by power washers. You can only imagine the shit I'm saying over there on the bonus Cantwell Shit Show over on patreon.com/Tony Cantwell. Now listen, thanks very much for listening to this pod. I have a couple of things to plug. One, I will be doing some comedy. I have the Tony Cantwell Christmas show is happening on the 6th of December in the Workman's. Tickets will be on sale this week. The 6th of December in the Workman's. I'm very much looking forward to that. It'll be a live podcast, live stand-up night. I'm also going to be doing comedy on the 26th in Whelan's, stand-up for Gaza. Also on the 30th of November over in the London Irish Centre in London. The 30th of November, myself and Alison Spittle are doing Not the Late Late Toy Show, which is our parody of the Late Late Toy Show night. It's a wild variety show night. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be music. It's going to be dancing. It's going to be comedy. There's going to be sketches. There's going to be some games, and it's going to be a lot of fun over in the London Irish Centre on the 30th of November. And I'll be doing some stand-up a little bit in the 14th. I'll be doing in Dublin, just a club night somewhere. I just need to check exactly where that is. But look, thanks very much for listening to this. I love you. Bye.
I am the sun and the air of a shyness that is criminally vulgar. I am the sun and air of nothing in particular. You shut your mouth, how can you say I go about things the wrong way? I am human and I need to belong, just like everybody else shyness that is criminally vulgar. I am the sun and air of nothing in particular.